What the hell did you get?
Fruit.
Food? What food?
And you're eating what? McDonald's.
And I'm eating McDonald's.
This episode is brought to you by McDonald's.
Hi. This episode is in part brought to you by Guilty Pleasures. This is a very important discussion, I feel like, because it's one of the things that people don't talk about, and it's one of the things that I really want to talk about. So, Fred Lebowitz, in her Netflix series, Pretend It's a City, she talked about how guilty pleasures shouldn't really exist. Now, I completely agree with that. You know, you see a lot of these people that are like, I'm not going to read anything that's outside of my classical circle. You know, like I'm like a very serious person. I'm not going to read outside of my sphere. If you wind back to some of the earlier videos on my channel, that was literally me. And I feel like I had a huge stick up my ass. And I feel like a part of growing up and a part of just becoming a better person, or I'm not sure if I'm becoming a better person or am I regressing to a more terrible person. It's just a process of losing that stick up your ass. Exactly. That's exactly what it is. If you ask a kid, like, maybe you should try this, maybe you should try that, like, more often than not, the kid's going to be like, no. And you ask them why. They're going to be like, no, because, you know, my mom said this is wrong, and that's right, and that's right, this is wrong. Like, candies are bad, reading a type of book is bad, and, like, being a certain type of person's bad. But as you grow up, especially right now venturing to my 20s, I mean, like, it's not that old. Like, who the hell am I to talk about life when I'm in my 20s? The more you start to realize the world is just kind of messed up. Like, before, this is your level of understanding. And within this level of understanding, you have, like, clear distinctions, right? Bad, good, and bad. Hero versus villain. Darth Vader versus Luke Skywalker. But then as you age, this kind of expands, right? You're just kind of like, okay, I know nothing about life. And same with pleasure. The things that I vehemently condemned a few years ago, right now I'm just kind of like, well, it's pleasure. Why not read something that I like to read? Why not read something that's like, not as complicated as Hamlet, but it's still a great read. People, especially people that love to read, they tend to have like this like subjective judgment or like subconscious judgment of like, oh my God, if you're not pursuing anything, that's like a Macbeth or Henry V. You're reading something wrong. You shouldn't be reading that thing. Or you feel real guilty for not reading Les Miserables. By the way, my ex-coworker, turned best friend, Laura, from the bookshop that I used to work at, she finished War and Peace in 4 weeks, and after that I'm just like, holy shit. Like, you're not human. Then I started thinking about it. I'm just like, why am I battering myself over this thing? Like, I'm enjoying whatever I'm reading. I'm just letting the ball go off the chain, and that's what it is. So today's episode is going to be about a few things that I've been enjoying immensely recently. They're not the most intellectual things. They're not the most, like, complicated things. And right now it's very much about reading things that I enjoy, or like watching things, digesting things that I enjoy, and turning them into my own version of storytelling. So here are a few things that I've been enjoying immensely. Number 1, the story collection by Chuck Klosterman, and this is captioned as fictional nonfiction, raised in captivity. This is just like a story collection that can send you into all sorts of rabbit holes. There are ridiculous stories in there about a guy. For example, there's this one story in there about a guy. He's like, he's got a cat, right? And he's rubbing the cat against people's bare bottoms. Like, stories like that. You can expect, like, I don't know how many stories are in this collection, but like there's quite a few of them that are quite ridiculous. So you can probably suss out a few that you like, skip the ones that you don't like. But this is such a great read that like you can probably finish this in like 3 days, right? This is my second day of reading it. I'm already like 183 pages in. It's that addictive. So my friend Allie from ROCKA magazine, which you should check out from the description down below, she recommended Chuck Klosterman to me after hearing that I am a big fan of David Sedaris. She was like, you have to read Chuck Klosterman. I was like, hell yeah, let's grab it. So I went to a bookstore and I saw this book on a shelf. I'm just like, that cover looks amazing. And I bought it. And 2 days later, I'm halfway through it. So if you're into weird stories and if you're into weird shit, that's the story collection for you. Second item on the list, weirdly enough, a New Yorker magazine subscription. So I'm the kind of person that loves old things. I mean, like, there's a bloody typewriter there. That's like, 90 years old. For some reason, I am absolutely in love with the idea of magazine subscriptions. Although I'm a subscriber to the New Yorker, like, on an app on my phone, but I'm just like, there's nothing quite like expecting an issue of a magazine in your mailbox. So every morning, when I'm still in my pajamas, I head out of the door And I always check the mailbox first thing in the morning. Because there might be like a new issue of the New Yorker in there, like with a completely new crossword puzzle. And the pieces in here are amazing. You know what? Like having a physical copy actually convinces me to read more. Because if it's just on my phone, it's mingled together with YouTube, it's mingled together with Twitter, Instagram, blah, blah, blah. It's very, very distracting. So I like the idea of like sitting down over a cup of tea and just, just read an article or two from this New Yorker issue. Fantastic. And the crossword puzzle. Don't even get me started on crossword puzzles. Magazine subscription, second item on my guilty pleasures list. And speaking of being a New Yorker, you should absolutely check out Friend Leibowitz's Netflix series, Pretend It's a City. And that's like the third item. This is a series that will crack you up. They'll make you angry. They'll make you into a bit of a curmudgeon for a few days before you realize, holy crap, Leibowitz is an amazing person. And I told this to this one person at a bookstore because I was there earlier today. And I just basically told her, Friend Leibowitz is kind of like my spiritual animal. That's probably a step too far. So if you haven't checked out that series, I strongly recommend that you do because it's fantastic. It's really short too. It's like one season, 7 episodes. Each episode is like 20 minutes long. I played the entire series in my creative writing class, and they loved it. So if they loved it, you're gonna love it too. And the last item on the guilty pleasures agenda list is David Sedaris. David Sedaris is fantastic. Like if you haven't read any Sedaris, I'm just like, what are you waiting for? Go to your nearest bookstore, grab a copy of whatever Sedaris they've got. Each and every single one of Sedaris' essay collections, they're great. They're amazing, but I highly recommend Meet Talk Pretty One Day. This is like, I think this is his masterpiece, but like you might disagree with me on this one. You might think like, that book about diabetes and owls, it's more interesting than like Meet Talk Pretty One Day, but like being a French student, this one really spoke to me. Like the struggles of learning French, the struggles of like communicating in French, and the struggles of just like, I don't know. There's just so much great stuff in here that you'll love it. If you love humorous essays, if you love shorter pieces, and if you loved all the other things on this list, be sure to check out this essay collection. I probably read this thing like 3 times, or 2 times, at least 2 times, and it's just as funny as it is the first time around. And that concludes today's episode on Guilty Pleasures. So check out some of the things on this list, and I'll see you next time.